Hi everyone and welcome back. If you are new here then hello, my name is Zoe and this is my YouTube channel. Today we're mastering the half lash and I'm going to share all my tips, my tricks on how to blend, choose, apply your half lashes and make them blend and look seamless. Half lashes are so popular at the moment and they are my preferred lash for myself as well. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to blend though, so I'm going to apply mine today and I'm going to show you all my tips and tricks so you don't struggle with this at home. So if you want to see how I master the half lash, then keep watching. Okay, so my tip number one is my favourite makeup look to do a half lash in is a more winged out makeup look. If you love a nice like winged out sultry smoky eye, a half lash is really going to add to that lift of the eye, especially in the outer corner. It looks absolutely stunning. Tip number two is you don't actually need to buy a physical half lash to do a look like this or to make a half lash. You can use a strip lash and cut it down, which is what I'm going to do today. So I've just got a strip lash, we're going to cut it into a half lash. So if you can't find any half lashes which you really like, use your usual strip ones and test this out and it works just the same. Tip number three is picking the actual lash that you want to use for a half lash. Now I think a more winged out lash works best to do a half because you still get that shorter inner corner which really helps it blend, but you still get the fullness and the lift and the length in the outer corner. If you use more of a rounded lash which can be shorter on both inner and outer corners, sometimes they can just look a little bit heavy in your outer corner and they kind of make still that rounded shape, so it kind of looks quite heavy here rather than a lifted shape. Yeah, for me a winged out lash works best for this because you've already got that shape there to create more of a lifted look. You literally just need to cut them. Okay, so now I'm going to work on my tips on how to blend them, cut them and apply them. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see hopefully a little bit better what I'm doing. So the first step to helping me blend my lashes is I always line my top waterline because I do find it adds depth to the root of your lashes as well and makes it look a little bit darker. It really helps either if you're doing a half lash or a strip lash. This really does help your lash blend, especially if you're not doing like a full-on winged liner or anything. It just really helps deepen as close to the root of your lashes as you can. So that is what I do first. I'm going all the way from the inner to the outer, even though we are only doing a half lash. This is going to help this inner corner blend because we're only doing a lash on this very outer. It does kind of just stop and then there's nothing. We need something here to help blend that out. So I'm going all the way through. Okay, so you can see the difference already just lining that top waterline, how thicker and how darker the root of my lashes look. That is going to really help blend the lash band. So either half or a full lash, I always do this. I always go the whole way through. It's all about the blend, just like it is when it comes to eyeshadow. You don't want to see where anything starts or finishes. So that trick is a really good one, especially if you don't wear like a top liner. Even just doing that will help blend your lash band so much more. Okay, tip number five, we're also going to add a little bit of something to the top lash line as well, just to really help blend this lash band because it's only going halfway. Again, don't want to see where anything starts or finishes, and I don't want to do a winged eyeliner. If you do a winged eyeliner, you don't have to do this step, but I'm going to use a little winged brush and I'm just going to use this black eyeshadow that's in my palette. And I'm going to do the thinnest line from the inner corner all the way to the outer because I don't necessarily want like a thick eyeliner for this look, but I need something to help blend my lash band. Now little steps like this are really, really handy because you don't always necessarily want to do an eyeliner with every makeup look, but you also want your lashes to blend as well. So this is what's going to really help blend them, but you're not going to necessarily see the eyeshadow. Really, really thin when you come to this inner corner, again, all the way through. Now it's there, but barely there, but it's going to make such a big difference. The main thing that you want to try and disguise is your lash band, especially if you're using a fuller lash, which I'm doing today. The lash band is a little bit thicker, so I want to make sure that it doesn't really stand out. Okay, it's tip number 6 now, and it's time to curl my lashes. You want all your lashes looking really nice and full, especially the ones in the inner corner, because they're going to have nothing covering those. So the thicker and the longer that I can get them to look, the easier that they're going to blend with my false lash in the outer corner. So it's not going to look like all of my lash is on my outer corner and I've got nothing on my inner corner. So I really like to give them a good curl. My lashes naturally grow quite straight anyway. If you're blessed with naturally curly lashes, then you could probably skip this step, but unfortunately for me, mine like to grow straight down. And you can already see a difference so far, just how little things can make such a big difference. So tip number 7, it's time for mascara. Now I like to apply my mascara before my lash. So my mascara, I don't really tend to apply any differently, but I do like to apply extra on my inner corner, just so that creates more of a full lash and it makes my inner corners look a little bit thicker, because again, there's going to be nothing covering there and it's got to blend in with more fullness in my outer corner. So I tend to just go over a couple more times on my inner corner than I do my outer. Okay, now it's time to cut the shape of our lash. Now, even if you're using an actual half lash, still measure it against your eye just in case you do need to trim a little bit off. My eyes are quite small, so I tend to have to cut mine down quite short. So when we're doing a half lash, instead of cutting them in half, I tend to cut mine in like thirds. So I tend to cut literally the very, very outer corner. I think a lot of people tend to find it hard to blend their half lash if it's a little bit too long and it kind of goes still over that curve but not all the way. You tend to get your inner corner like sticking up, and that's when it's really hard to blend and it's really hard to stick down. So I cut mine a little bit shorter, so it's literally just the outer third of the lash that I'm using, and then that way I find they glue down and they stay really well. Because these are already a winged out shape, I'm going to cut kind of where my tweezer is sitting really, so just that very inner third. I'm going to cut off the outer 2/3. If you want to keep as much length as possible, cut a little bit off both ends so you still get fullness in your outer corner, but you still get the tapered edge of your inner corner. You want the inner corner to still be shorter so it does blend in with the natural lashes. If you cut off all of your inner corner and you're just left with all these long lashes at the end, they are harder to blend because they kind of just go really long at the end and there's no kind of taperedness to blend them with your natural lash. So I'm not too fussed about so much length in the outer corner. I'm going to cut here and cut this outer corner off. But if you do like length and fullness and you want to keep as much of this as possible, do a little bit from each end and then you've still got your shorter lashes in the inner corner, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now we're left with an outer third. I'm going to place this on my lash before any glue, just so you can see how I've measured it. So this will sit just on my very outer corner, and I've not got too much of a curve on it, so I know I'll be able to really stick that inner corner down, and it looks like they're going to blend really well. So let's pop some glue on. I'm going to show you my method of applying them as well. Okay, so I've applied my glue. A little extra tip is to leave your glue to dry for at least a couple of minutes before you apply them on. That way the glue's not too slippery then. It will literally just stick wherever you place it, which is amazing. So I have my last little trick on how to apply them to blend them the best possible. And that is, instead of when you're applying a strip lash, you're trying to get as close to your natural lash line as you possibly can. With these, it's slightly different. So with a half lash, you want the inner corner to be as close to your lash line and your natural lashes as you can possibly get it. And then on the outer corner, I lift mine up slightly, just so it's off my lash line. So it does create that more of like a winged out and angled effect. So I'm going to place it down onto my lash at a little bit of an angle. Squeeze down the inner corner as much as you can because you want that as blended as possible into your natural lash. Then with this outer corner, you can lift it up slightly, and even though if there's a gap, we've already applied that eyeshadow, so it will blend and you won't be able to see a gap. Just lifting that outer corner very, very slightly, it's literally just off my lash line. It just creates more of a winged out and lifted effect, which I do really like. And everything looks really seamless and blended. Just adds a little bit more length and extra volume and thickness to your outer corner, and you don't have to worry about your inner corner popping off, which is why I love a half lash. So that is my final look. You can definitely tell the difference between before and after. I'm just going to quickly do this lash now so I've evened myself out, and then I will come back to you. Okay guys, so I've just done my other one, so I'm all blended in and evened out and ready to go. But those are my tips and my hacks on how to apply a half lash and how to blend them seamlessly. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hoped that these tips helped you out. Let me know if they did down in the comments. Please give it a big thumbs up as well if you did find it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe as well. And I will see you next week in my next one. Bye!